The nominations for Jeff Keighley's Game Awards are finally here. And of course, it wouldn't be the Game Awards if it wasn't surrounded by some sort of controversy. And this year, it all comes down to the nominations for Game of the Year. Because this year, there's something different. A DLC has taken one of the 6 spots for Game of the Year. It seems like a few people are upset that the Elden Ring DLC has been nominated for the Game of the Year award at this year's Game Awards. You bet your freaking bottom dollar they're mad about it, dude. Let me be clear, I'm 100% on board with this decision and told Jeff Keighley the same thing a few months ago. The industry is changing and we're moving from boxed products and sequelitis more towards games that are kept alive. Now, listen, this guy is the creative director of Moon Game Studios. He's the guy behind Ori and the Blind Forest, Ori and the Will of the Wisp, and then that new game, No Rest for the Wicked. He's right about this, but he's also wrong, because what he's talking about here, towards games that are kept alive, he's talking about something that's more like a live service game. Something more like Fortnite, something more like Destiny, something more like Final Fantasy XIV. He's not talking about an expansion pack for an existing game that you kind of only go to play for that time and then you're gone. It's not something that you constantly go back to, unless you're doing like a replay, but that's the same thing for any game. So I think realistically what he's saying is not right, and it's probably why so many people are so riled up about it. For example, Pyo, let me get this straight. They could have nominated Space Marine 2, Stellar Blade, Helldivers 2, Tekken 8, Silent Hill 2, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, Animal Well, Dragon's Dogma 2, Prince of Persia Lost Crown, and many more. But instead, a DLC gets the nomination. Now listen, if we're being totally real here, okay? These games nominated for Game of the Year are stellar games. Sure, would I change some of them? Probably. Would I have nominated Shadow of the Erdtree? No, I would not. Because to me, a DLC does not fit in this category. Whether it is an incredible DLC or not, I still feel like it doesn't belong in the category of Game of the Year. It belongs in Best DLC, or something along the lines of that. I don't think it should take one of these spots. Especially also, this DLC is not even something like Phantom Liberty, the Cyberpunk DLC, where when you open up the game, you can choose to just jump right into the DLC if you want to. Kind of like with The Witcher, you can just start those DLCs out of thin air. But with this one, you have to actively play like hours and hours of the game. Be pretty far into Elden Ring before you're able to transcend to this. So it's kind of like it doesn't stand on its own as a game. You wouldn't call it a Game of the Year because it's not. It's an add-on to an existing game that already won Game of the Year in the years prior. So like, let's be real here, people. Chris Voisman, what chicanery? For years, DLCs have never counted, but not our FromSoft. Anything for precious FromSoft. Silent Hill 2 blew everyone's expectations out of the water, and the $40 DLC gets to be a nominee? What a sick joke. Great scene from Better Call Saul, and I agree. I think Silent Hill 2 is a spectacular game that everybody should play, especially if you're a fan of survival horror games. And does it deserve a spot much more than the DLC does? Abso-freaking-lutely. Man, I only played one of these, and it was an expansion. Also, Helldivers 2 and Silent Hill 2 deserve better. Now, see, people like this guy, Kev Do It, I think he's on the wrong side of things. And that's mainly because he's trying to say that other games did belong, and he didn't even play it. So if you haven't played it, you don't really know. And you might as well just shut the hell up. But people like this, we have failed as a society if a DLC wins on a list that includes Astrobot and Metaphor. Is it gonna win? I don't think so. Is it there just because it's nominated? Yeah, people want to show a little bit of love to FromSoft. They want to say, FromSoft, we know that you got the goods. We know that you could deliver the goods. We know it was a great DLC. We know everybody loves Elden Ring. So we'll give you the nomination, but we're not giving you the win. But a nomination feels good, and we'll give you that. I think that's what's happening here. They're not even trying to make it seem like it's going to win. Nobody's saying it's going to win, except for people who are complaining that it better not win. But I think there's realistically a very, very small chance that it wins. Like, honestly, the smallest chance. I think every other game that's nominated for Game of the Year has a higher chance of winning Game of the Year than Shadow of the Erdtree. I'm sorry, but putting DLC on a Game of the Year category is corny no matter how good it was. True. You're telling me a card game got nominated for Game of the Year over all these games? Listen, let's be real. Balattro's pretty good. Balatro? Pretty freaking good. But Silent Hill 2? Come on, man. Silent Hill 2 deserves the spot. What a game. Now, here's the thing, everybody. I haven't done my nominations yet because I wanted to do them with you. Because I think by casting votes live and by giving you some insight into what I'm thinking about these games and to where my head's at, will let you know who I am more as a gamer and get you more in an in-depth feel of what's going on inside this skull head of mine, okay? Game of the Year. The nominees are Astrobot, Balatro, Black Myth Wukong, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Metaphor ReFantazio. Astrobot, I think, is genuinely an incredibly fun and satisfying platform. While it is very easy, and there's not a lot of like depth to the movement and to the skills, Mario, you know, you can go crazy, you can do crazy things. You can do whatever you want to do with the movement in that game. This, it's much simpler. And it's a great game, and you should absolutely play it if you have a PlayStation. But is it Game of the Year? No. Balatro? No. It is a very fun game, a very addicting game, but is it a game that deserves to beat out these other games? No, it does not. Black Myth Wukong, stunning. Loved it, actually. One of the best Souls-likes, if not the best Souls-like ever made. An incredibly good game. The combat was fantastic. The graphics are amazing. The art direction, the style, the music, wah-wah-wee-wah. Really, really, really good. Tough, challenging, but not super tough. Actually, didn't die that much, actually. Didn't die nearly as much as I died in freaking Shadow of the Erdtree, where I think on the first boss I died 150 times. Tough, real tough. But does Shadow of the Erdtree belong in this category? No, it does not. Not even a little bit. Not even a tiny bit, actually. And I think that by putting it here and taking the place of other games like Silent Hill 2, or like Stellar Blade, which I know a lot of people wanted to be here, or even Dragon Age, which a lot of people wanted to be here, which absolutely does not deserve to be here, but something like Helldivers 2 probably does, it's a bit upsetting to see Elden Ring there. Shadow of the Erdtree shouldn't be on this list. It shouldn't be. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I got a lot of thoughts on this game, and not all of them are good. I don't like a lot of the decisions that they made with this game. I think there's too much of, huh? Is that Sephiroth? Like, that stuff probably should tone it down a little bit. It just felt a little bit too bloated for me. The pacing was all over the place. There was too many moments where things just dropped to like an absolute halt. It felt like you weren't making any progress at all. And then there was just a lot of things that pulled away from the story, I felt. It didn't land that much for me. It was a good game, but it could have been much more than it was. And Metaphor, talk about a game with unbelievable, unrealistic style. Holy, man. Creative direction? Wowza. You're claiming all those awards. Art direction? Wowza. Sometimes you just want to sit down and play a game for an hour. And in Metaphor, you sit down and you read for 59 minutes. And then you get to walk around for a minute before you're like, well, I guess that was my hour. It's a little much. A little much. Some of these games on this list, mainly Final Fantasy VII and Metaphor, would be better games if they were just condensed. Take out some of the bloat and just make it a little bit tighter, and you got a perfect experience. For me, Game of the Year out of these listed games is going to be Black Myth Wukong. I'm locking it in. Now, honestly, the Game Awards should be a time to celebrate games. And that's what they're meant for. It's a time to bring us all together, to look back on a year of great games released, and to remember just how good a year it was, and to celebrate those developers for making something amazing. That Game Awards constantly gets hate on Twitter. People are just clowning on Jeff Keighley every chance they get, and they're saying the awards are bullshit all the time, but you know what? It's the one opportunity that we get to look back as a gigantic community and just appreciate and love games for what they are and say thank you to the developers. So you know what? Sit back, relax, watch the Game Awards when it's on in December, and just have a good time. And hopefully the game that you voted for ends up winning. Because I hope the games I voted for did.